Well, hello, everybody. It's really good to see you all with us. It may be your morning, afternoon, or evening. I don't know, because we are aware that besides folk that join us on the actual occasion, many people watch in the UK afterwards. And I know that this is posted on Alive's website, and we hope that lots of people view it then. There's quite a collection on the Alive website now of these webinars. So I do hope you zoom across and have a look at it. My name's Neil Hawkes. I'm the chair of Living Values in the British Isles. I've had that position for a number of years. I was one of the original folk who went to New York many years ago in 1995, I think it was, to found Living Values. And for many years, I was a member of the board of Alive. But it's great to be here tonight with somebody who I think is incredibly special. I follow his work because I know what he's doing. We don't too often have chats together, but I'm very aware of the incredible work that Roger Mills does for Alive, the Association of Living Values Education. Alive brought together all the associations worldwide, and Lynn knows the number, but I know there are over 40 countries in the world where Living Values has touched the hearts and minds of people. And Alive coordinates that work. And I know Roger, he's already told us this evening, he spends 3 hours every morning working on emails of all the folk who are contacting him. Roger has had an incredible background. He's an entrepreneur, a sailor. He's done so many things, as the little blurb about him showed, that I think you've all seen. In 2016, Roger joined the Association of Living Values, and he's been on the board, and he's now the deputy president of Alive, and is doing so many marvelous works. But Roger has got up very early in the morning. He's speaking from Australia, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning or just after. And Roger, we're so indebted to you for giving us this time to talk with us. And I've been really excited, looking forward to what you're going to share. So without any more ado from me, Roger, may I hand over to you? Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Look, it's great to be on air, even if it is 4 o'clock in the morning. So don't feel embarrassed about that. That's fine. I'll get you back one day. Okay, so what do I talk about today? I'd like to do something a little bit different, but further on. But in the meantime, for those of you that maybe aren't completely familiar with Living Values, I'll just give you a very, very short interpretation, my interpretation of what Living Values is, and why I'm engaged in it, and why I do those 3 hours every morning. And actually, it's much longer than that. 3 hours is just the emails. You know, for 25 years, this Swiss-based NGO has been going, as Neil mentioned. It goes back quite a ways to 1995, 1996. And it's over the years has provided the most incredible wealth of information, resources, and books, and all sorts of materials and training programs delivered to not just schools, but certainly with teachers and education in mind, because they obviously affect the future of our civilization, if you want to call it that, because the young people grow up with certain understandings. And the whole premise of Living Values is that we engender the world to the greatest extent that we're able, with concepts like the Living Values Approach, which essentially can be wrapped up in one little tiny sentence called a values-based atmosphere. And it's about that I'd like to spend most of my time talking today, because the values-based atmosphere is so close to my heart, which is a bit of a pun because that's really where it's located anyway. And that's what motivates so many of us to put our lives into organizations like Living Values, or where we can do some good in the world, whatever that may be, whatever our choice has been. The foundation of the Living Values approach is centered on the concept of living in your values. That's what it means, living values, living in your values. So while this is something that we want to share with others, which is what normally occurs when somebody meets living values for the first time, or I'd like to give values to those children, they need it, or I'd like to give values to the people in Zimbabwe because they're misbehaving and they really need the concept of values. Maybe I should do that. What we tend to forget is that actually it can only start in one place, and that place is inside ourselves. So this is, living values is very much a personal interface with the way our life is, the way we lead our lives, and also the way we behave in our lives. And the ethics and dynamics of our lives need to be integrated into living values. And in fact, the values are always there. The problem is that we don't normally choose, because it can sometimes be intimidating to actually look at ourselves closely. So this is as much a global educational concept as well as a personal concept to change and build the way we live our lives. And if you look at the world around us today, you can see that there are many places where values are not really needed to be looked at too closely, because we seem to have chaos everywhere we turn, whether it's the environment, or whether it's wars, or whether it's relationships, or whether it's school. No matter where it is in business, we all need seriously to look at our values. And that's what I want to talk about today. So the concept of a values-based atmosphere is for many things. I put a book together after going out to all of our 43 countries and asking people if they would like to give us their impression of what a living values-based atmosphere meant to them. And they came back with some really significant and well-documented material with their own personal findings and what the difference it's made to them in their lives. And we put that together in a booklet called Living Values Atmosphere. And you might like to get that, and you can actually download it free off the website of livingvalues.net and have a look at it. It's about I think about 56 pages of really incredible stories from people all over the world who've been involved with living values, like Neil and Lynn and Joanna and others, and for years. And I think that's, what I would really recommend if you want to have a good look at what living values is all about, because the essence of it is incorporated in that book. But I'd just like to share, maybe from my personal experience, how I got involved with this and why I was attracted to it in the first place. It's a very simple story. I used to live in England. I was born in England, and just at the end of the war. And I grew up in London, North London, and went to Hendon Technical College, learned catering and food services. But anyway, this particular story is very short. I was 12 years of age, I think, and my uncle dropped a box of books over to our house. And I fussed through them. I like reading books, and I found one called Laughter in the Sun. It wasn't a particularly thick book, but it sounded interesting. So I opened up the pages and I started to read. And I was 12. I was absolutely enamored by the concepts delivered by the author, who had written really about his own experiences in the Mediterranean on various islands and parts of Italy and so on during the war, and also North Africa and Israel and all around there where servicemen were sent. He was a warrant officer in the army, and as such was part of sort of the organization of different things, and found himself in Sardinia in the Med. Excuse me. And Anthony is his name, and he was offered the opportunity to occupy a small village, a small crossroads in a cottage. And his job as a warrant officer was to look after the island transport. It didn't seem like a particularly onerous task or difficult task until he actually got in and found that the office or his cottage had a desk with 5 telephones on it. And the telephones were all connected to various organizations on the island that were running the POW camps, that were running the work camps for Italians, were running materials and transportation for British Air Force squadrons and all sorts of things. And the phones all started ringing. And he spent his day negotiating with people to provide trucks for the Italians who were moving their campsite, and German POWs needing trucks to unload ships in the harbor. The British squadron decided to relocate to Naples, and they had to move everything from their airfields in Sardinia, and he was involved in all the transportation for that, added to the Italians who were working on some building construction sites and needed donkeys because that was the only access to the site that they could use. So he had to find the donkeys. Anyway, all these things added up, and I read this in my youth, and I just got so excited by these 5 telephones ringing and asking him for help, and he was continuously fending off people and sending stuff out and getting it all organized. And he lived a really hectic life for about 6 months in this role. And as a 12-year-old, I got so enamored with the story. I just thought, oh, I'd really like to be in that position. I'd really like to share that experience. I'd love to meet all these people from different countries, and I'd love to be involved in something vibrant and exciting. And I got it. In 2016, I volunteered with
Roger has stuck on us at the
well, I don't know. I really have time or energy to do this. And Chris
Roger,
said,
you
well,
just stuck on us
too, because he was a lawyer and very busy. And anyway, the outcome was that I said, well, if you do it, I'll do it. And he said, well, if you do it, I'll do it. So we became the sort of the British team in the role of the Alive, which is the board of all the countries that Living Values operates in. Anyways, I have to just tell you that the truth is I love it. I love what I do. I love the people. I really love the product, if you want to call it that. I love Living Values. I love the concept. I know it's really close to God. I know that the values that we extend and that we perpetuate out there, I know that they come from something very, very significant inside ourselves and also around, you know, in life generally. Maybe they're actually what life is about, you know. So let me just remind you, we've got peace, love, respect. We've got tolerance, responsibility, happiness, honesty, humility, cooperation, simplicity. I always get stuck with the rest. Freedom, unity, and simplicity. I think I've got them all. 12 of them are the fundamental values that I think Neil and the others back in 1996 sort of said, these are the ones we really need to focus on. This is they belong to all humanity. Every human group on the world, on the planet, has these basic fundamental values. And so anyway, they're the ones that we work with. And to me, those values epitomize what I like to think God would be asking of us to have in our lives. And the question is, you know, why would we not want to have those values? Because they really are the foundation of a good life. They really are. And it's not about wealth. It's not about what you got, not about the car. It's not about your job. It's not about any of that stuff. It's the same anywhere. It doesn't matter whether you're living in a grass hut in somewhere in darkest Africa, or whether you're living in a fancy house in Los Angeles. The values are the same, and they're the same for everybody. And if we all had those values, life would change considerably. It's not about changing the world, it's about changing us so that what we reflect becomes the world. And the world is the reflection of our state of consciousness. And so you can look at the world today and be completely unhappy, because you should be. Because the truth is that we've really messed up. we've lost the whole concept of values. And this is what our organization is all about. So my role as deputy president, which is the one I found myself involved in 2016, I just put down the short list. And daily I get to engage aspects and opportunities for extending living values occurring in different countries, like 43 countries. Fortunately, we don't talk to all of them every day, but every now and again, or every other day, we seem to get one of them pops up with a major project, and then we have to sort of, our job is to support that project and that organization to actually make it come to fruition in their country. And so with 43 countries, you can imagine it's like the buttons are being pressed continuously for different, a bit like running a railway station, actually. And helping others in many diverse situations where values are desperately needed and values awareness can play a part in people's lives. Well, that's part of the job, and we just have to keep doing that. And learning how to present LVE, it's not like a car with a model and you can actually sit in it and drive it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. It should do, but it doesn't. And so it's a very tenuous thing. So what really are these values, and where do they sit inside us? That's what we have to keep asking ourselves. And how can I find them? And so you need educational material that will be easily understood by teachers and presidents of universities and faculty members, as well as the students who are actually they're the ones they want to teach the values to, but we've actually got to get them to the people who are organizing the departments of education and get them to realize that the opportunity that living values and values of wellness has. So doing that, and I guess my thing is to probably, and this is really as much for me as it is for anybody else, and that is to try and bring values as the medium to get an honest reflection of what's happening in my life. And this is interesting, of course. I've just been told the internet connection is getting unstable, so it might be my fault. I'll take that on board. Anyway, so it's really important that we look at ourselves. And I know I said that at the beginning, and I'm going to be saying it over and over because it really is absolutely vital. The personal aspect of living values is not only where the truth is, it's actually where the benefit is. And the real benefit is to me, and to you, but to each of us that's willing to embrace it. We have to look at those values and say, where are they in our lives? You know, and we have to ask ourselves some very deep questions that on the surface are very simple and easy to slough off, but they're actually very, very deep, and they're very they're ones that really require a great deal of thought and a great deal of time and a great deal of energy. So I'm going to be talking about that for a few minutes, and they have to be woken up in us. I don't think the values are not existent in everybody. I think we're motivated and driven by the values. But the problem is that if we don't know how we're being driven because we're not aware, we're not conscious, then we have a problem. It'd be like getting in the car and not knowing how to drive it. And that's really what we're doing. We're sitting in the car and we're actually in freewheel, allowing it just to go where it wants to go. But sooner or later, we're going to hit a tree and it will come off the road, and a corner will turn up and we won't go with it. So this is why our lives are. That's the way we are. And this is what has to change. So when we act out our lives with what we call a living values atmosphere, and that is something that is actually contagious. That's what happens, is that somebody, you find somebody, and everybody's experienced this. Maybe you are it already, or you certainly are to a degree. Everybody is. When you're living in your values, you start to change things around you, and it's not like you're changing them, but they're changing with you. So your circumstances shift directly in relationship to where you are with your values. And if you live in your values, now you can see that somebody who is dishonest, for example, for whatever reason by nature, can be corrected to become honest. it's a matter of perception. It's a matter of values. It's a matter of truly realizing what you're doing to yourself. It's not much what you're doing to be dishonest to somebody else, but about being honest to yourself. And once you're honest with yourself, you see how that works when you're honest with other people and just tell the truth. You know, it's the way we have to do it. It's when we don't tell the truth that we've got the problem. And sometimes it's much easier to not tell the truth because it doesn't cause the fear of response or retribution or something of that nature. But the truth is that the truth is the only way to go. But you have to really want to do that in order to make it happen. And clearly in the world right now, we don't tell the truth. You know, we don't tell the truth to ourselves. We don't tell it to our children. We don't tell the truth to the government. Doesn't tell the truth to the people. The people don't tell the truth to the government. It's a real mess. It's like kindergarten. And it is kindergarten. That's the truth of the matter. We're in kindergarten, and we think that we might die at whatever age we're going to die, and that'll be the end of it. We won't have this pain anymore. But the trouble is, we're going to carry it with us to the school that we go to after kindergarten. So if you think you can leave this behind, trust me, you're right at the beginning of a long journey, and the sooner we awaken to our values, the sooner the journey will be more comfortable than it has been perhaps through most of our lives. So let's do something different. Rather than me talking to you continuously, because I've got a bit of a sore throat, let's play a 10-minute game. And if you could just find yourself a piece of paper and a pencil, that's all you need. Nothing too complicated. Not a tablet and not a telephone, not a computer, just a piece of paper. Has anybody got a piece of paper still? If you have, just grab it. One of the problems that we face is that we're always looking at the window and saying those people over there need values. So this is crunch time, guys. This is where we're going to have a play and see if we can figure out how to go about this. So I'm going to ask 12 questions, and it won't take very long. I want you to think about the questions when I ask them, and I want you to number. You don't have to answer the questions in words, but just number where you think you are on a score of 1 to 7. So we've got seven points to stop at here. So number 1 is the highest score, and number 7 is the lowest score. Okay, so 1 to 7, 1 being highest, 7 being lowest. And actually, I'm going to turn that around and say, because I think I've just got it backwards, it's actually the, where are we here? Let's just set this, here we go. Based on 1 to 7, 1 being the lowest score, sorry, and 7 being the highest. Well, that makes it much easier for everybody, I'm sure. I'm sure your maths can handle that. So we're going to go ahead, and what we'll do is I'll just run through this with you. And the idea is the game is called Changing My Life, and it's just normally a 15-minute quiz. We're going to do it probably a little bit quicker than that to allow Neil to come back and ask me some difficult questions. So I want you to feel into the truth of these questions as I ask them. So 1 to 7. So just put down the number that you think applies to you. So number 1 is peace. Okay, there are 12 values, so we've got 12 questions. And the question is, do I create a peaceful atmosphere in my home and my work? Now, all you have to do is to put down whatever you think between 1 and 7 is. And so away we go. 1 being the lowest, obviously, and 7 being the highest. So for me, I'd probably put down 5, because I can see that sometimes the atmosphere in my home and also in my work is not actually very high. There's not a lot of peace in there. There's a lot of frenzy. So that's what I'd put. So you put down the number you want. And the next one is love, because it's a value. And the question is, do I express my love towards myself and others? Is my love unconditional? You really need to go deep with this one, but just for today, have a think about that quickly or feel into it. Do I express my love towards myself? Do I express love towards myself? Do I look in the mirror and say, oh, no, you lost all your hair? Or do I say, hey, yeah, you look really great and wide awake for 4 o'clock in the morning. Well done. So what do we say? I mean, do we say nice things to ourselves in the mirror? Or do we say, oh, my goodness, your eyebrows are too long, or your hair needs cutting, or there's a pimple on your nose, or whatever, and thereby diminishing the beauty of who you are? So what number do you have for that? Next one's respect. Do I honor the worth of others and myself in my day-to-day interactions? Now, sometimes we can really value other people, but do we value ourselves? I mean, how much respect, self-respect do you have? From 1 to 7, whereabouts would you be on that scale? You know, is it ultimate respect, or maybe that's a bit narcissistic? But you know, what is it? What's your score there? Okay, from there we go to tolerance. This is a good one. Tolerance. Can I be tolerant of others or circumstances in every moment? You know, sometimes it's easy to be tolerant with people with a bit of effort, but being tolerant of my circumstances. So when that guy cut you off in the car yesterday as you were trying to turn into your drive, how did you feel about that? Did you toot your horn, or did you just give him a wave, or did you just ignore it altogether? What degree of value did you place on that moment? You know, what was it being trying to show you something? Everything that happens to us is trying to show us something. Everything is a reflection of what's inside. So therefore, if you want to find out what's inside, you just have to look at what's happening. When the motor mower won't start in the middle of summer, and you know, the grass is getting longer by the day, and you know, like, you get really ticked off. It's easy to get ticked off with a motor mower, but what's really happening inside you? Are you being tolerant to that mower? I mean, maybe it just needs a little bit of seal, you know, of love. So where would you be there? Number 5, responsibility. So responsibility question says, do I take personal responsibility when things go wrong? Well, I have to say no. I didn't do that on the computer. The computer did it. It just broke down. Incidentally, 2 of my computers just gave up at the same time, which caused a lot of trouble, and made me do a little bit less work, which was wonderful. And finally, I've got them back, and now I've got double the work because I've got to change everything. Anyway, so what did you get for responsibility? Do I take personal responsibility when things go wrong? Yeah, it's a big question. Honesty. I love this one. Am I willing to be honest, even though I may be adversely affected by the outcome? Wow. Well, that's a tricky one, isn't it? It's all right to be honest when things are perfectly balanced and it's not going to affect you. But what if you have to say something to someone that you feel is really important that you share with them, and you know it's going to upset them and they're going to be very aggressive in response? What do you do with that one? So 1 to 7, honesty. That's a tough one. Well, they're all tough, because humility, which is the next one, says, can I forgive someone who has hurt me? Can I forgive? I truly forgive. I mean, truly forgive, not just say, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, look, you know, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It didn't really hurt. You know, I've lost my foot, but it's okay. I've got the other one. Or do you really, you know, what happens when your wife leaves you, your husband leaves you? What happens when the children finally leave home? You know what I mean? Can I forgive someone who has hurt me? You know, 1 to 7, where does that sit? And it's a good point right now just to say that if anybody gets a lot of 7s, like some people actually get 84 7s. Well, 7 12s are 84, which means that's the top of the mark that you can get. I think those people probably are wearing wings, and they actually shouldn't be listening to this seminar. They've got far bigger things to do in the world, and we'd really like them to do some work, because that's an angelic level of fullness. So we're not going for top scores here. The higher your score is, the less thinking or feeling you've done here. Happiness. Do I feel really happy in my life all the time? Well, I really can't say that I feel really happy all the time. I can feel happy some of the time. And sometimes that happiness is actually dependent on another's behavior towards me, or circumstances coming to me that actually seem to make me feel better about myself. So therefore I become happy. So now I'm dependent on the motor mower starting to make me happy. Actually, my mower, when it does start, does make me happy, but I'm not looking at my personal situation here. I'm really balancing it against an object which is actually maybe doesn't really care that much about my happiness. So number 9 is cooperation. Can I accept help from others, whether I want it or not? This is a good one, because, you know, like so often, you know, somebody comes along and says, can I help you? You know, I'll help you shift that tree or something. And you say, no, go away. I don't want to dig holes all through my lawn. I just want to do it my way, you know. Or are you willing to get someone to help you? Living values is very, very much about cooperation. So your score there. Number 10, simplicity. Do I keep my life simple? Well, I don't do too well in that. Part of living values is not simple. So I can't even agree that my score there would be very high. So I'd probably be down in the 4s. I think my partner would probably say that I actually haven't got to 2 yet in that score. But anyway, number 11 is freedom. Do I feel free to make another choice in my relationships, in my work, and in my life? You know, the horrible thing, really, the reality is that for most people, they don't have freedom because they're not willing to make another choice, because they've already set themselves a benchmark to which they can attain peace and freedom. And freedom being not just the physical freedom, but also the freedom of our mind, the freedom of speech, the freedom of love, all that. So, you know, do I feel free to make another choice in my relationships, in my work, in my life? Well, it takes a lot of courage to make changes, and particularly to unburden yourself from something that you're not enjoying and hope that you'll find something better. But the truth is, for most of us, if we don't ever step out from what we are doing, we never manage to come to something better. Then the final one is unity. And unity, the question asked is, am I feeling connected to life, my environment, and to those around me? How connected do you feel? Sometimes I feel really connected, well, particularly with living values and the work I do. Other times I feel like with my environment, I don't feel very much in touch with it at all. I've got 5 acres. The sun's shining every day. We've got 34, 35 degrees. Can't find enough water to water all the plants. They're dying. I go outside and it's really depressing. Then we have 3 days of rain, which we had last week, and all of a sudden grass is green again. And everything that looked like it was dying is actually doing fine. And it was just me that was worrying. I was worried about the reflection of living in an environment that was on death's door. It was like, oh no, the time's up. Anyway, there we go. So that's it, 12 questions, and that's all you have to do. Now, I'd just like you to add the score up, whatever your 12 questions has come to us as a score. It'll be really, and then think about that. So what those 12 questions have done is provide you with a very, very, very quick quiz to see how you think your life is, or how you feel your life is right now. And hopefully you've been honest enough not to worry about whether it's a high score or a low score. I'm more appreciative. I personally am more appreciative as a mentor for people when I see them putting in a low score, because they've come to realize that they've got a lot of work to do, and they've actually recognized the truth of where they are. So have a think about that. Now, if you really want to play this game seriously and get into it, there's one little other thing you can do. You can draw a circle, and you need 12 segments in the circle. So it means cutting it in half and cutting it in quarters, and then in each of the quarters are 3 separate segments, and into those you put the names of the values, all those 12 values that I mentioned earlier. And then what you do is you put a little dot. You need 6 dots between the circle center and the circle outside rim. And then what you do is each of those obviously is a number. And then what you do is you join the dots. Oh, there's so much fun. And so I do these at workshops. I did it recently in a university with all the counselors and the senior faculty, and had them doing this. And then the question that you ask at the end, okay, guys, have a look at this and tell me how it would feel if this wheel represented the one that you've just drawn and connected all the dots. How would this feel if you, that was the front wheel of your bicycle? Because the truth is, it is the front wheel of your bicycle. It's what you're riding your life to every day. And if you've got highs and lows of numbers in different values, it will show you whereabouts those spikes are. And the truth is that life with a bicycle will look like your life plan or your life behavior plan or your life measurement plan. It would be incredibly uncomfortable. And it is uncomfortable. That's the chaos thing. It is uncomfortable. So the opportunity then is to say, okay, well, let me have a look at that question again. And what do I need to do to fix that? How do I fix that? What do I need to change in my life to fix that? And that's the crux of living values, living in my values. Because once you start to fix those things that are going wrong, or that you can see, and you don't have to get profound in it, it's just a matter of saying, I won't do that again. I won't shout at my child in the morning when they don't have their breakfast. They know whether they're hungry or not. They'll eat breakfast or not eat breakfast. Shouting at them isn't actually helping anything, and it's upsetting me. And I don't leave, the child doesn't leave the house to go to school in a happy environment, or I have not created a living values environment that really is conducive to him going to school and suddenly being faced with all of the other students and teachers who are also shouting because their kid didn't have breakfast in the morning, or whatever the circumstances. Anyway, play with a circle if you like. It's a really fun thing to do. I have a great deal of fun with that one. So what does it all mean? Well, those questions really engage you and ask you to have a behavioral adjustment, which is a terrible thing. It sounds horrible, but it's actually quite harmless. And the adjustment might take a little bit of work on your part and on my part, but it's really vital, really vital. So our concept of self-reflection, when I started to see this, to get it, when I first started with living values and somebody brought me the concept of asking myself these questions. I've never done self-reflection in my life before. I've never evaluated my circumstances and asked, why are these things happening to me? Why do things go wrong? Why do people knock on doors and ask questions or come to the house? Why do, what happens to me every day? Why does it work so well? Yesterday, the plumber who said he'd be there at 2 o'clock was there at 1:45 to fix the pump I was having trouble with, and I have to look at that and say, well, that's I know that it was his responsibility to be there at 2 o'clock, and he was there at 2 o'clock. But usually in my life, people do not turn up when they're actually supposed to. And why is that? Like I'm creating a dynamic here between myself and, in this case, the plumber. The way I've spoken to him, the way I asked him to come and see me, the way the energy I had in me at the time I asked him if he could find time to come and check my pump, that's what made him turn up at 2 o'clock. So it was my doing that got me that response. And everything that comes to us is that. And that's what living values is all about. It's really basic. It's not complicated. It's not hours and hours of teaching people in a classroom about values and making them write things down. It's about looking at yourself. And if every child in the school classroom looked at themselves and said, why am I unhappy? It's because mum is beating daddy up or whatever. But yes, it is. But then why is that happening? It's because I make too much fuss, perhaps, and maybe I'm making their relationship a little bit more difficult than it needs to be, and maybe they're a bit stressed out with their life. Maybe I should be more tolerant. And then all of a sudden, mummy stops beating daddy up. It does work. It sounds ridiculously simple, but life is simple. We just make it hugely complicated, and that's what we do. So what we did was we created a cornerstone for living values in the process. And this was pre-COVID. What happened was I was working with the living values representative in New Zealand, and we were working and we were complaining to each other about the difficulties. Both our countries have their populations located in a very similar situation, over 1,000 kilometers or 2,000 kilometers distance. And whenever we tried to put on a workshop in Brisbane, everybody in Sydney could say, oh, I can't get time away to go and do that, so we can't do it. So then we put it on in Sydney, and then the people in Brisbane said, well, hold on, we can't get down there to do that. And we realized that actually doing face-to-face workshops was an incredible challenge. And therefore, we looked for something more simple and something that would expand to a wider region of people, a wider group of people, and in fact could be implemented worldwide. And so we started the distance programs, and that was way before COVID, and everybody got on to online courses. We were already there and established when that happened, which was really good for us, since it just got us going beautifully. And we've been building on that now. But the first course which we started was called the DFT, which was the Distance Facilitator Training Course for people interested in becoming part of Living Values. Excuse me. So that started to take off. It was slow. We get maybe 10 or 12 people out of India who would do something like that. We got people from Africa. We got people from, well, nearly all the countries in the world. Somebody has come along, even from our beautiful lady in Afghanistan when the Taliban were previously, when the Taliban were up in the mountains, and she was just determined that the children in school would get an understanding of values, and came to us and said, how do I do this? I haven't got a computer. I can only got my telephone. How can I do this? And so really for her, and also another guy in beautiful dude in California in the prisons, sent a message to us and said, I've got to do something about the state of the inmates in this correction facility. And he said, I can put a workshop together if you gave me the materials. So we provided materials. Another guy in Ghana came along and said, hey, my village is in chaos and everybody's hating each other and the children are all out of sorts. And I'm trying to run the school and it's just too hard because nobody will make changes in their lives. What can I do? Can you help? So we created this DFT program, and it's been really wonderful. What we do now is that people who are who actually get through the DFT, which is a 3-level course, that takes 12 weeks, and it doesn't cost anything. It's free. All the materials are free and everything. But it takes 12 weeks of willingness to really engage the values. And people who come out the end of that with their certification, and we have a Swiss-based certificate, so it's international. And we make them into mentors, where they want to become mentors for other people. And so we build up a management group of a team of mentors who then take over the facilitation and the evaluation of other people's work. And so that's how that's built. And that's worked really well. And just recently, we've moved into taking people into distance programs, online distance programs with the train the educator, and those are predominantly for school teachers because they have specific needs, and that's taken off really well. But most of that interest, ironically, is coming from Asia. The Asia countries are becoming amazingly excited about values in their education system, to the point where Department of Education is being told that it must, politically being told, and resources provided to bring values into the education of the children in these countries. So the Asian countries are going to have a totally different population in another 20 years. These kids who are coming through school now, they're really understanding what's going on. They're going to be leaders and people at the top of the organizational tree of countries. So yeah, watch out. Anyway, that's it for me, really. I just want to thank Neil for inviting me to do this. I really have enjoyed putting it together, and the thought of how shall I talk to everybody and what shall I say to you. This I can't say this enough, you know. The simple formula of being safe being heard, being valued, being loved, and being respected is the healing balm for all ages, in all circumstances, particularly you and me. And it's those things are those 5 elements are the ones that really are the crux of our life, around which everything has to begin. And for people with children, young people with, or people with young children in particular, those 5 elements, safe, heard, valued, loved, respected, are absolutely the vital components to bring new people into the world with happiness and an understanding of themselves. So that's me. Thank you very much for the time. I'll go and make some bacon next time.
Roger, that was absolutely spellbinding. Thank you very much indeed. You really got my mind whizzing. I was back in New York. I was back with Cyril Daly, the chap at UNICEF, who really made us think about what was important in life. And I always remember him asking us to hold a baby. And he said, well, that's the most important thing human beings do, because through that you form a connection. And
yes.
you've been talking about tonight has been about how we connect with ourselves. And therefore, if we connect with ourselves better, we connect with other people. But it's that honesty. I was fascinating going through the list that you gave us. I thought, what degree am I being honest in my answers? And I then started to wonder, as you get older, do you start to mellow and the hormones start going off, so you're more compliant? I could never understand why my dad got more and more mellow the older he got. Now I'm getting older, I now understand. You know, you're much more patient in many ways, because things happen. Anyway, I'm not going to talk too much. We've got some really wonderful people that I can see on the screen, and names that I can see that hide some other wonderful people. So perhaps in the remaining minutes, some of you have a comment or a question, whatever you would like to say. Over to you for a minute. Anyone like to comment?
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Roger. I've just got 2 things really. One, have you ever thought about getting somebody else to do that questionnaire about you? Would that be, you know, it feels like a very brave thing to do, but I just wonder sometimes that we feel that we are certain people and portray a certain way or behave in a certain way. And I'm just wondering if you've ever thought it would be quite sort of interesting to get somebody else to do it who works with you or is part of your family life, or just to see whether or not it matches, because that could be quite interesting, couldn't it?
Well, yes, but the difficulty there is that another person asking you the questions would be asking them probably also from a place that comes from themselves. So it's a bit tricky. My personal suggestion from the years I've been involved in those questionnaire type things is to do it yourself. It belongs to you. It's something you have to do. You're asked to do it, whether it's asked by us or whether it's asked by the circumstances in your life. You're being asked to make changes to have a better experience. Life wants you to have a better experience. It wants you to enjoy yourself. It wants you to have fullness of your activities and your well-being. It's really about you. If you take it to somebody else, you start dealing with their issues that would be built into it. So I'd be very careful about asking somebody else's, because it's their opinion of you, not the truth of you, because they don't know the truth of you. You don't even know the truth of you. I don't know the truth of me until I start asking these questions.
No, I absolutely think doing it myself and having just done it myself, I'm reflecting on my answer as Neil did, but I just think it might be a conversation. It might be a useful conversation for me to have with my 2 daughters, and we all live and work very closely
Oh,
together, just to
yes.
see whether or not there's anything that I'm thinking, yes,
Yeah.
I do take personal responsibility when things that I do create a place that's calm.
No, you
And it
don't,
would just
Mum.
be
No, you
really
don't.
good to have a conversation with somebody who knows and loves you in a safe, I didn't mean in a professional
Yeah.
way particularly, but I just think
Mm.
maybe that's what I feel, just to
Yeah.
check that I'm
Well,
getting my answers right, really.
well, I would try it, but I'd
Yeah.
certainly try it, but I'd hand them the piece of paper and say, here, these are the questions, ask them, answer them yourself, and then let's talk about it. You
No,
know,
absolutely.
yeah, no, that would work really well. So what we
And
did was we moved on from that. Those questions are just samples, but we created a little booklet called Self-Reflection Booklet, Living Values Self-Reflection Booklet. And anybody can have that book. It's on the website. You can just download it. It's free. And it's got the 12 values, and each question has got 7. Each value's got 7 questions. So that's the proper one for doing the course. And that really broadens the size of the question and the parameters in which the questions are asked and which the values sits. I love these values. I can't tell you how much. Whoever came up with those 12 values is just remarkable, because I can see them in every moment of my life. I can see them right now. I can see them when I look out the window. I can see those values at play in nature and everywhere. So yeah, do whatever you want with them.
Thank you, Anne,
expand.
for your question. Now I'm going to see if anybody else has something to say. Alan?
Thanks, Neil, and thanks, Roger, for being with us at this unholy hour for you.
Might be a holy hour.
Yeah. So my question is not dissimilar from Anne's, and I'm curious to know whether you've asked people to split their answer into the way they view themselves and the way they view others, because I found for some of these, when I was thinking about how I look at myself versus how I look at others around me, there was quite a considerable difference.
Mm.
And if you just average it out, you might be conning yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a very good point. But again, it would be good to look at the disparity between the two and say, well, why do I look at people one way and why do I look at myself another way? And the chances are you find probably you're the derogatory to yourself, whilst admiring somebody else for a quality you see in them, and yet you don't realize it's in you too, but you've never looked. We just haven't looked. We haven't opened the door to see what's there. And no, I think, yeah, do, explore it in any way you can, because again, it's like everything in life. It's not the obvious. Whatever the question is will take you deeper, and you can, as you said, but you can split it up and do the two and see what they are. I'd really like to know if anybody's brave enough to tell me what their score was, just out of curiosity.
Well, my total was 59.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's great. No, it doesn't matter what your score is. It's all great. At least it's not 84.
No, I disappeared as an angel at one point.
Completely.
Oh, bless you. Alan, is that it, or do you want to follow?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else?
I had one more, if that's all right, Neil. Do you mind?
Not at all. If no one's
It was really because I know we've had lots of conversations, haven't we, Neil, about our voices and waking people up and bringing people on this journey that we know that word on just living values and it being part of their personal and professional lives, and young people, the whole range. When you first went out, Roger, to get people to wake up and engage in your sort of distance learning, how did you actually get them to? You gave us lots of wonderful examples of individuals who came to you asking for things, and you could then support them and they could sort of work with you. How did you initially get people to wake up in all those different countries and come to you and say, I want to do this with you, I need living values in my life?
and you're really pushing the envelope there. I think we've got something like, I think this must be nearly 8 billion people in the world, and I think I've had 24. Well, not quite 24. It's been a bit better than that. But look, that's the hardest thing, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we throw at it in terms of energy or dynamic or ideas or resources. It doesn't matter what we do. We're not making a dent. We're not even a dust particle on the surface. It's I would say heartbreaking, but I have to then look at myself and look at those questions relative to living values, and what is wrong. You know, why is it that this amazing organization with beautiful people finds it so difficult to get people to join, get involved, be part of it? What is wrong? Because there's something wrong fundamentally somewhere in it. Yes, Helen, what is it? What's wrong?
I'm going to say what I think is right in it, actually. And as you were talking, I was looking at those 3 lovely birds beside you that are just sort of flying off into the beyond. And yeah, there they
those
are.
ones.
And when I started being involved with Living Values, I was really keen on follow-up, you know, train the educators, then to go on to train trainers, and then the follow-up, and then etc. And it was extremely energy consuming, etc. And another trainer said, no, I don't do that. I just go to a place, I do a training, and then I go to another place. She says, I don't bother about feedback. It takes up too much of my time, but I know that many seeds have been sown, and that will just automatically spread without me even knowing. And I think that's the secret behind Living Values. We don't know where those little birds have flown to. You know, we can count all the people that have actually taken a course or done this or attended that, but I think it's much vaster than that. And you mentioned at the beginning that you feel God is somehow involved in this, and I feel that as well. I mean, as you were talking, I just got goosebumps from time to time, feeling that, you know, wow, there is some magic in this. And so I just hope never to hear you say that again. Where are we going wrong? Because I think it's just all spreading out there beautifully.
Thank you. I'm aware of time now, and I want to bring in my dear friend Gladstone, who has his hand up on the screen, very patiently waiting. You scored a full 7 for patience, I think.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you very much, Roger, for this talk and for sharing the game, which I find to be a very powerful self-reflection tool. You also talked about the distance facilitator training program. I wondered if you could give a little bit more information, or is it available on the website regarding when you start the program, how it is run, and how flexible it is for anyone interested to do that training program?
Yes, look, it is on the website. Just go to livingvalues.net and go to distance, which is on the directory at the top, and that'll take you straight to it. And just read about it, and also have a look at the testimonials in there of what people have said who've done it. It's better that they tell you than I tell you, but the responses are remarkable. But it's all there for you. It's completely free. Just go, and when to start, it's up to you. And whether you can do it in the 12 weeks, that's great. If you can't, take 2 years. It doesn't matter. It's really a self tool.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I'll do that.
Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, thank you.
And well, Helen, the seeds are dropping. Look, just as we speak, there's more seeds, and more birds flying. So amazing.
I'm aware that we're on time, and I always promise folk that we'll finish on time properly. But before we do, Roger, heartfelt thanks from all of us for getting up in the morning, for giving us a great talk, for really challenging us, I think, in many ways, we'll go away thinking about what you've said. Thank you for all the hard work you do in spreading the living values word across the planet. You are a tour de force in that, I know. So many, many thanks. We appreciate what you do. And may I thank everybody on this call who's come today. Without you, we wouldn't have these meetings. And those of you who are watching, who aren't present now, may we all send you our heartfelt thanks for watching this webinar, and watch us online. These come up every other month. But thank you all for coming today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Roger. And will you all have a very good morning, evening, or whenever you're watching. Thank you all very much, and good night.
Thank you. Thank you.